Hello, and welcome to episode 5 of Novel Knits. My name is Danelle, and this is my YouTube channel where I talk about what I'm knitting, what I'm reading, and what I have in the dye pots when I'm hand dyeing yarn, which I have some hand dyed yarn to show you today, which is exciting. I'm coming to you from southeastern Wisconsin, where I live with my husband, our 2 kids, our dog Penelope, and the kids Fish, Aang, and King Carl, which if anybody wants an update, the fish are doing just great. They made it through the deep freeze here in Wisconsin. The kids are cleaning their tanks and it's all going well. So I guess they're officially part of the crew. So I have a lot to talk to you about today, but before I get started, anything that I talk about will be listed in the description below this video. So I'll put all the patterns and yarns that I talk about, books that I'm reading, anything else, links to my Instagram, the Etsy shop Instagram, which I'll be talking about, and will all be listed below. And you can find me online as Novel Knit Girl on both Instagram and Ravelry, and that's probably just the easiest way to find me. Searching by my first name is difficult because it's difficult to spell. So if you don't remember how to spell my name, it's hard to find me, but if you can spell my name, you can find me anywhere you want on the internet, I promise. Anyway, let's jump into the vital few. So the vital few, in case you're new here, is where I just talk about a few things going on in my life as opposed to the great many things that I could talk about, because believe it or not, I'm a babbler, so I try to just keep it in check here. So for the vital few, one of the big things that happened this week is that my sister-in-law Heather and I started an Etsy shop, and we've been talking about doing something creative together for a long time. She is an artist. She has been doing pencil drawings, and I started hand dyeing yarn recently. And in the past, we thought maybe we would write a children's book together or do something else creative. And this is just what kind of started organically for the 2 of us. So it's a small shop. It's never gonna be, you know, a big scale thing. But right now we're selling Heather's hand dyed, or oh my goodness, her original drawings and my hand dyed yarn. We are going to have other items coming to the shop in the future. We're looking into making some of her drawings into note cards or greeting cards. She also has started making pom-pom wreaths that are really awesome. In fact, I have one that I'll show once they're going in the shop. I might be selling some hand knit items. I love knitting shawls, but I don't wear that many shawls, so I might put some of my shawls up on the shop as well. So it's just gonna be a small shop that has what we're working on, and I'll be dyeing yarn and she'll be drawing, and that'll kind of be the staples, and then there will be some other things. So at the end of this episode, I will show you some of the yarn and some of the drawings that are in the shop right now. So it's been a fun thing to do. My brother-in-law, her brother, made us, helped us with a logo and making business cards, and it's just been a really great, fun, creative, in a different way thing to do. So we've been enjoying it. I'm a hobby dyer. I am not, you know, I am very much new to yarn dyeing, but it's a fun thing to do, and you know, it's beautiful yarn, and I have so much, and I want to try this. So I don't think that the bases that I'm using are going to be permanent bases. I'm not sure that the dye techniques I'm doing right now are permanent dye techniques. I have a lot of experimenting to still do, and I'm sort of still in my experimental phase. So the prices of my yarn reflect that right now. As I gain confidence in what I'm doing and find the bases that I'm going to stick with, some changes will happen, but right now it's just hobby yarn, and I'm really having a lot of fun. So let's move on. Checking in on the no-buy year. It's February, it's the end of February, and this always makes me feel really bad about myself. February was better and worse, we'll say. I had thought that I hadn't bought any hand-dyed yarn in February, but I did buy one thing. That was hand-dyed. But most of what so let me back up. I started in January 2021, a no-buy year. January was terrible. I bought all the things, all the patterns, all the yarn, all the things. February, I bought far fewer patterns, and I bought one skein, it's a big skein, but I bought one skein of hand-dyed yarn, and I bought a lot of Knit Picks yarn. So the Knit Picks thing had to happen, I think, before I can totally commit to no buy. I needed neutrals, I needed sweater quantities, I needed blanket quantities, I needed to know I had enough yarn to do everything. And let's just be clear, say it with me, Danelle, you now have enough yarn. Oh my God. Start like, I don't know. I do feel like I hit a point, a wall, where like, I'm like, okay, you really don't need any more. Like seriously, like that was gratuitous. I bought enough yarn to make 3 blankets and 4 sweaters. But I'm going to love them. Does that make it okay? I don't know. And if anybody is not a knitter, Knit Picks is a more commercial yarn. It's still very nice wool yarn and some acrylic. I did get some acrylic as well. It's a more affordable price point, and it doesn't have a lot of, I mean, they've tried to do some hand painted yarns, but it's more just like your workhorse, make a blanket with, make a sweater with kind of yarn. That's how I view it. Where sometimes when you're buying yarn from a yarn dyer, like someone who's doing it in their home or as a small business, it's a more luxurious yarn. Usually it's a more luxurious base. It's, just how the person is spending their time dyeing it makes the price of the yarn go up a little bit. So to me, Knit Picks, it's not great that I did this, but I do feel like now there's no more excuses. Like I can't come up with any more excuses. Like you have sock yarn to make socks for the next 7 years. You have blanket yarn that will last for the next 2 to 3 years. You can make any sweater that you want. And so what happens to me sometimes is like I'll see a pattern and what's happening. So real life current situation that's happening to me right now is the striped sweater by Andrea Mowry. I keep looking at it and thinking I want to make that. And I'm hung up on the fact that I want to make this sweater, but I don't have the kind of sport weight yarn that will create the same effect. But she's not the only person that has made a sweater with stripes. And I could even just use a regular raglan, like the flax sweater pattern, which is free, and stripe it. So I think I just have to reframe the way that I'm seeing patterns and yarn and thinking more creatively. I have a creative side of my brain, I just haven't been utilizing it lately. And so I think another thing that's contributed to my feelings that I finally have enough is that I'm feeling, I know I said at the beginning, if you watched my first episode, that I'm a caster-oner. I love to cast on. I cast on all the things all the time and with wild abandon, and it doesn't bother me. Well, it has started to bother me. I have 30 works in progress. That's ridiculous. I can't work on 30 things. That's like working on one thing a day per month in a month. I'm never gonna finish anything. So I'm definitely feeling the need to whip down and stash down and use what I have and use things that I've invested in and just decluttering my brain and my life. I think it was happening before the pandemic, but the pandemic definitely made it worse, where I was like, I want to work with this beautiful yarn, so I'm just going to cast on and put it in a bag and put it over there, and then I'll pick it up again sometime. Well, now I have 30 of those bags around my house. Not really. I mean, there's probably like 6 things in my Ravelry queue that I haven't actually cast on yet, but I have them. I have the yarn and needles ready to go. So I need to just sort of get my life and my yarn and my projects in order. So for March, my goal is going to be to finish up a few whips, because I have several that I could just finish up and easily finish within a week or 2. So that's going to be my goal for March. Not my most exciting goal, but I would like to get down to like 10 to 15 works in progress instead of 30, because that's ridiculous even for me. It's just, even I can't keep up with that. So anyway, I think that's it for the vital few. So I'm going to move on to my finished objects in just a second. I am drinking some Earl Grey tea. No, I'm not. I am drinking English breakfast tea in a mug from David's Tea. This is one of my favorite mugs. It's kind of Nordic and I like it. Okay, I have 3 finished objects. when I wrote my show notes that are in front of me, I had 2, but I have 3 now. But before I jump into that, let me just show you my sweater that I am wearing because it is hand knit. This is the Enchanted Frond Sweater by Yarnia Designs. She is in England, and I did a test knit for her, I think about 1.5 years ago. I don't think it was last winter, but it may have been. But this is knit all in Knit Picks Stroll Tweed. And let me get a little closer here. This color here is Marine Heather. The purple, which is the main color of the sweater, is Indigo. This brown is Flagstone Heather. And then this pretty mint is North Pole Heather. And I'll stand up slowly so you can see. I really like this sweater. Of all the sweaters that I've made, this one fits me the best. The sleeves are a little tight, which I haven't perfected sleeves for myself yet. I follow sort of directions blindly, and I'm always a little disappointed with my sleeves, but that's a me problem, not the pattern. This color work is amazing, and it's beautiful, and it's easy. It's much easier than it looks. Like always, my sleeves are just a little shorter than I like. I mistakenly always make bracelet length sleeves, so that's something that with my future sweaters I'm really going to try to remedy. But again, this is Knit Picks commercial-ish yarn, and it looks really great, and I really love this sweater. Super easy. Her patterns are really nice, so check her out on Ravelry if you're interested in this. She's got a couple different sweater designs, lots of socks and hats, and she's a great designer. I really liked test knitting for her. All right, into my finished objects. And speaking of test knits, I did 2 this month, which is why I think I don't have as many works in progress as normal. So I finished both of my test knits on time, which is great. And in case you don't know, a test knit is when a designer, a knitwear designer, puts a call out saying they have a new design and would you test the pattern. So basically when you're testing the pattern, you're going through and just making sure that there's no mistakes, that everything makes sense, that it works the way it's supposed to. I've never really tested a pattern where I've had a lot of issues. They're always really good. So it's like, I don't know. So, and these 2 were both perfect. I had no feedback really other than they're perfect and they work great. So my first test knit is the Stay Cozy House Socks by Neilan. And there are 2 socks here. I did do 2, I have 2 feet. And this yarn is Woolenboon sock yarn held double to make a DK weight sock. And the color is Commando. And then I don't know if you can really see, but there are some places where it's like fuzzy and it kind of stripes a little bit. That is in the pattern. You also hold some mohair in there, and that's a 3rd strand of yarn, and that's what makes it fuzzy in places. I don't really know if you can see, but anyway, these were great. And because they're DK weight and a thicker sock, they knit up really, really fast. I think I knit, well, I knit 3 of them because the first one I did the wrong size for my foot. So it worked on that size too, but it just wasn't gonna work for me. So then I did 2 in the larger size, and I think I knit all 3 socks in like 11 days. So that was really fast for socks. But I don't know if I have a lot more to say. The mohair that I used was Knit Picks Aloft in oat color, and you could use like a different colored mohair to give it more of a striping effect, but I just kind of liked it with this natural look and kind of not having a big contrast. I really like that. They're really super squishy and soft. I did wash them and put them in the washing machine with the rest of my socks, which that's just how I wash my socks. I put them in the washing machine on cold, and then I hang them all to dry. And don't do that with mohair. I'm very lucky that this didn't have mohair throughout the entire sock because I think it would have shrunk and been ruined. So they actually fit better now because they were just a hint too big when I first made them, but they're fantastic. So hindsight, I would never put them in the washing. I will never put them in the washing machine again, but it didn't ruin them, although I can feel that they felted just a little bit, but works for me. I love them. They're great. I don't have to talk too much more about them. My second finished object is my second test knit. So this is the Painted Pebbles shawl by Patty of the Forest City Knit Girls. And it's this awesome, that's the wrong side. It's this awesome shawl that starts on this end and it goes all the way through like that. What a big shawl. It's so big. I'm gonna put it on. I really, really loved this as well. So this pattern calls for a strand of fingering weight yarn and a strand of slub yarn. And I don't have the balls here to show you, but like slub yarn, I think you can really see here, is like when there's like these nubs of yarn that kind of, it's a different textured yarn. So it's kind of, the whole thing is kinky and then it's got these slubs. So it almost looks like someone took like a strand out of the middle and like screwed up the yarn, but they do it on purpose. So the slub yarn that I used is Lavender Lune, and the colorway is Solstice Rising, and that's the color with a lot of variation and the slub in there. And then the other yarn that I used was Ex Libris Fibers. Rita, my friend, who is awesome yarn if you're interested. I think she was highlighted on that yarn calendar for February, so that was really exciting. And her yarn is amazing, and that's that blue color, and that's called Jump Cannon, and that was a single ply. This is so light and so airy and so awesome. I don't know, I really like it a lot. Hard to show it with where I'm sitting, but it's really pretty. And you could, of course, like wrap it around more, you know, I'm not great at styling shawls, but you know, there's a lot you can do with it to make it hang the way you want. You could make this with 2 strands of fingering weight yarn or DK if you wanted it really thick. There's a lot you could do with it. It doesn't have to use slub yarn, but I have to say, I really liked the slub yarn. It might be a fad yarn, it might be over in 5 years, but it kind of made the knitting fun. And this is all garter stitch, so there's no purling, and so it kind of gave you something to look forward to, like when the slubs would come up and what side of the work it would end up on and what color it would be, because there's variation in this yarn. It was a lot of fun. So I highly recommend this pattern. I loved it. I also finished this test knit on time, so I was really excited about that. And yeah, so that's the Painted Pebbles shawl by Patty. And I think I said everything that I needed to about it, but it's great. I might keep this on for a minute, at least while I talk about my next finished object. So my March socks, I don't even think I had these cast on the last time I recorded. So that goes, I don't know, I really knit these fast. I think because I really like the pattern, and I'm sorry, I'm reaching into the bag. So as part of my no buy year, I am pulling out sock yarn that I put aside in December in round bags that look like this. So I have 12 in a trunk in my bedroom, and I pull one out at the beginning of every month. I'll open this one later because this is March. And then I decide that I'm going to make a sock that month with that yarn. So for February, I pulled out a Nomadic Yarns Twisty self-striping yarn in the Mountain Bed color, which this is my favorite color self-striping yarn yet. And I have a lot of her self-striping yarn, and this one is so good. Oh, look at that. So I ended up finishing these, and the pattern that I used was the Lazy Afternoon sock pattern by Tracie Millar of the Grocery Girls, and I love the pattern. The pattern was awesome. I love the yarn. The yarn was awesome. I used a contrasting, or more like a coordinating yarn for the heel. Ooh, that's not on straight. Okay. This was a really easy pattern to memorize, and it turned out really pretty. I love it. So this is what it looks like if you're looking at it straight on. I'm so awkward. But I love the colors, the mint green, the browns, the deep, deep purple, And I didn't block these yet. I don't know if I will. I'll probably just wear them, and because they're just for me. I tried to match them perfectly. They do not match perfectly. The socks, and it's like, I don't know what happened. It does bother me. I would prefer if they matched perfectly and both of the toes were like that minty toe. That would be my preference. I don't know what happened. If you look at the top, I look like I started them in the same place. I think I did knit the second one a little tighter. My tension may have just been a little bit tighter. But at the end of the day, I really like them and I'm really happy with them. And it's not that big of a deal if they don't match perfectly. They're cute and I love them. And this is a pattern I would definitely knit again. I loved it, especially with self-striping yarn. Sometimes you don't just want to do knitting all the way around over and over and again. So, so yeah, but great yarn, great pattern. I just wish it would have matched in the end. But you can't always have what you want, right? And you know, it's all right. It's fine. So 2 pairs of socks. So I think I'm up to 4 pairs of socks for this year. So I think I'm doing well on my sock knitting goal. Whew. All right, let's move into works in progress. And I only have 1.5. So because I finished 3 things this month, and 2 of them were test knits, so I couldn't jump around and cast on willy-nilly and all that. The only other thing that I really actively worked on was my Felix pullover by Amy Christoffers. And this is a sweater knit in the round. It has really pretty raglan details. Oh yeah, that's coming up pretty nicely. There's short row shaping in the back, and I made some mistakes. I'll talk about those in a minute, but overall I'm really happy with this. The yarn that I'm using is, I don't know if this is available anymore, and like I said in my last episode, I actually tried to sell this yarn on eBay, and I couldn't sell it even for really, really cheap, so I decided to knit with it. And it is the Sprightly yarn, and it's an acrylic wool, or acrylic wool worsted in the copper color. And I have to say, I like this yarn. It's really soft and it's really springy, and I don't know, it's really nice. I'm happy with it. I'm happy I didn't sell it for cheap on eBay and that I'm using it. So there are some short rows in the back, which is great. And I know I did them, but I can't see them, which that never happens. So that's exciting. I made a mistake on one of the raglan areas, but you really can't tell, so I'm not even going to show you. But I'm not really sure what I'm doing with the sweater, if that makes any sense. But I casted it on, I cast it on in November on a whim one day. Like I was like, you know what, I just want to start the Felix. And so I cast it on. I got through like one set of like the pattern on, you know, the raglan pattern, and then I put it away, and then I did all my Christmas knitting, and I came back to it early in the month. And I have no idea what past me was thinking, because this pattern is for Aran weight yarn, which is heavier than the worsted, and I don't know what size I cast on. And I sort of, you know, I thought maybe I should go back and count and do some math, and I just thought, you know what, I'm just gonna do the increases until it looks right. So that's what I'm doing. Looks right. It's gonna fit me. If anything, it'll be a little bit big, but I'm not really sure what size I'm knitting. This is not how I would recommend knitting a sweater at all, but because I'm not sure what I was thinking when I cast it on, I just sort of had to make some decisions when I decided to work on it, and I just decided to go for it. And it's gonna fit. I have plenty of yarn, so I'll be able to make the sleeves plenty long, and I'll be able to make it long enough, and it's gonna be nice. So I'm hoping to finish this in March. Maybe even get to wear it before the weather gets really nice. So, but so far I'm liking this. I mean, got a little ways to go. Probably about 6 or 7 more inches until I start the ribbing. But yeah, this is like one of those sweaters that's like, if this works, it'll be a miracle, and I think it's gonna work, but it could blow up in my face. So I'm gonna try it on, I think, after I'm done recording and just see how it looks on my body, because that's a really good way to tell as well. So anyway, that's the Felix, and hopefully this will be done next month. All right, and then I thought I would just give you an update on my Wave of Change jacket, because so yeah, the Wave of Change jacket, I love it. I love it. It's great. There's nothing wrong with it. It's gonna be beautiful. Here she is. I haven't done anything more. So it's basically a cardigan made out of bulky yarn. The yarn that I chose to knit it out of, I had 4 balls of this bulky twist heathered red flannel from Barrett Wool Company. And based on how I was reading the pattern, I thought I was gonna have enough yarn, and I did not. I do not, because I cannot knit 2 button bands and 2 sleeves with just this much yarn. It's just not a lot of yarn. So a while ago I had ordered another skein of yarn, because it was red flannel red flannel instead of heathered red flannel, and I thought, well, maybe that's just what it is. It's not it. It's not gonna work. I did talk to Evan of Barrett Wool Company, and he said, at first he's like, well, I've got 2 more skeins of the yarn. And I was like, yeah, but it turned out he had 2 more skeins of this, not of this. So, and he said they're not gonna make this again because it turned out much lighter than what they wanted. They wanted this, which this is fine, this is good. It's just not what I need right now. So the options that I have, I think, are to make this a short sleeved cardigan, and I'll just always wear like a black shirt underneath it, and I think that'll work. I thought maybe I could try fading these together, but I just don't like it. I think they clash too much. The other option I have is that I could just use black yarn, but I don't think I want like black sleeves coming down. I just don't know. I think it's gonna be short sleeved, and if I run out of yarn, I can kind of cap off my sleeves with this black. I think that's my plan. I think that's what I'm gonna do. I'm a little disappointed because I really wanted it to be long sleeved, but at the end of the day, it's just how this is gonna have to go. And I think I'll still wear it and get a lot of use out of it. So that's where we're at. So I'm also gonna try to finish this in the month of March. So maybe I'll have 2 sweaters finished in March. That could be really exciting. So we'll see. That's definitely gonna be, because I'm pretty close to finishing this, especially if I'm doing short sleeves, so I'm gonna try to make that a priority. Okay, whew, that was a lot of talking about yarn and knitting. Before I get into book club, I thought I would just show you my yarn sock. Before we get into book club, I just thought I would show you my March sock yarn. So here it is in my brown bag. Open it up. Ooh, all right. It's a skein of Gnome Acres. And this color is Gnomey Night. So I'm gonna skein this up and think of what kind of socks I wanna make with this yarn. And these will be my March socks. Oh, getting tired, guys, getting tired. Getting tired of talking, I should say. I don't talk this much ever, actually. So, all right, let's do a very, very quick book club today, because I don't know that I have a lot to say about any of the books that I've finished reading. I did finish reading The Great Alone by Kristin Hannah. I liked this a lot. This book is basically like a love song, love story to Alaska, a love note to Alaska. And it's really well written. It's got a lot of lovely nature scenery in it. They moved to Alaska in 1977. It's a girl and her parents. Her father's abusive, and how they have to learn to live off the land and work in the summers to survive the winters, and all the people in this little town that they know and their relationships with them. And I really loved it. I thought everything was great. The only criticism I have, which I read one other book by Kristin called The Nightingale, and I have the same criticism about both books. It's like, this is a 500 and some page book, and she gives you every detail, every thought. It's so detailed, and then you get to like the last 30 pages, and it's like, okay, we're done now, bye. And it's just they end so abruptly. Like, I don't know, it's like you've made a meal out of the rest of the book, and like you can't just give us a little, I don't know. It just, her books seem to end really abruptly for me. And I mean, books have to end, stories come to a close, but they just, I don't know. And like big things happen in those 30 pages, but it's like it just is glossed over to finish. So that's my only criticism. In general, I love this a lot. I'm gonna pass this on to my friend Julie. Hey Julie, if you're watching. And yeah, good book, loved it. I also finished reading Cersei by Madeleine Millar, which I don't have that with me because I already gave it to my mom to read. And that is about the Greek goddess Cersei. And that was another book that I really liked. I don't know, if you are interested in the Greek mythology at all, you'll like it. If you're not interested in Greek mythology at all, you still might like it. It's just really about her life and how awful the gods are to each other, and just sort of, you know, like most of your favorites pop in there once or twice. But it was really well written and really a good story. So I don't know, I feel like I'm glossing over this one. It was good. I didn't know how I'd feel about it, and I really liked it. So I would highly recommend that as well. The new book that I'm reading right now is called Sometimes I Lie by Alice Feeney. I am this far, which is not very far yet. I'm liking this book a lot. Let me see. The premise is, my name is Amber Reynolds. There are 3 things you should know about me. 1, I'm in a coma. 2, my husband doesn't love me anymore. And 3, sometimes I lie. So I'm like 3 or 4 chapters in, and it kind of goes back and forth between her being in a coma and the couple days before she went in the coma. So I'm really interested to see where this goes. It's a British author. I think the character lives in England somewhere. I'm not sure if I know where in England yet, but I am enjoying this a lot. I just haven't had a lot of time to read before bed lately, so I'm not very far. On Audible, I finished A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas, and if you like Sarah J. Maas's books, you'll like this book more than likely. It's a spin-off of the A Court of Thorns and Roses trilogy, which I really enjoyed, the trilogy. I haven't liked any of the books that have come after it. There was a little novella that I really didn't like, and this book, which was several hundred pages, and I thought it was okay. I felt like it was a little smutty, and I didn't love that. Like, there was a few too many descriptors in there for me, and also it felt like a story I'd read before. So she has a couple different series, and this sort of storyline, this redemption storyline, I feel like it was too close to ones that she's done in both her Tower of Glass and A Court of Thorns and Roses series for it to happen again with this character. Plus, I don't really like Nesta. Maybe that's an unpopular opinion, but I didn't really think of all the people she should have had her own novel. Didn't really like her. I didn't like how the other characters were portrayed to make her story go. It just wasn't my favorite. But I mean, I would read it again because I really do like her books. So, you know, it had enough in it to make me keep reading. But if I was going to rank it with the rest of the Sarah J. Maas books, I'd put it at the bottom. And now on Audible, I'm listening to It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, which is a author that I've never read before. I'm not very far, but I'm enjoying it so far. I think this is kind of a romance, possibly. I needed something light, so I chose this book, and we'll see. I'm not sure if I'm gonna love it or if I'm just gonna be like, meh, you know, but right now it's keeping my interest when I take the dog out for walks, so that's good enough for me. All right, let's get into what's in the shop really quickly. I will start with the yarn. So like I said, right now everything is one of a kind, either due to base or the dye techniques. But I'm just going to show you some of the yarns that are in our Etsy shop. And I should tell you, it is called Pencil and String, and it is on Etsy. I'll have a link below, but if you type in Pencil and String Etsy, it'll take you to the shop usually. It's very difficult to search on Etsy, so going through a link or just Google searching is probably easier. So my newest dye came in, and that was a teal. So I've been having a lot of fun with teal. So this is just a regular teal. I think I named this Peacock because I love it. And then this one, I did some over dye techniques, and this one I think is called Sea Glass. And all bases right now are fingering weight or sock weight. This is a BFL, and this is called Caribbean Sea. This is another over-dyed with teal. I think I have, no, this is a one-of-a-kind. So these two are both one-of-a-kinds. This one is an MCN base, and there's another one of these. So there's two of these. And then this is called Electric Pink, and this is 100% merino base. This one, I'm going to try knitting with this base to see if I'm going to keep it. I like the idea of this one, but it seems real, and it's real plump compared to some of the other bases. So I'm going to knit with this, I think, and see what I think, if I'm going to keep that as a regular. This is a BFL, and this one's called Nights. This is one of a kind called Petal. I couldn't recreate this one if I tried. It was a very happy accident. This one is the only sparkle base that I have. This is Grello. No, it is not. This is Grunge, but I think of it as Grello in my head, but it's Grunge is the colorway, and it's gray and yellow, and it's a sparkle base, so that'd be great for sparkle socks. This is called Dusk Till Dawn. I have this on several bases. It's just a real moody blue. This is like my favorite. This one's called Summertime Sadness. It's like a purpley light gray. And then these last three I am selling as a set. I think it's called 3 Seasons, possibly. And these were just playing around with dye in the dye pot, just trying to get some autumn colors. Thought they'd go really nicely together for a project. If you are interested in 1 or 2 and not the trio, let me know. I can always work something out. I'm not like a crazy person who will say, no, you must buy all 3. So just send a message if you're interested in 1 of the 3 or 2 of the 3, and we can work something out. So let's get into my sister-in-law's stuff. She, because she is awesome, has incorporated some knitting related pictures into her portfolio. So here's this one. It's a teal yarn ball. And they're all different. The dimensions of all of these are on the listing. So here's some tomatoes. And butterfly. We named these all as we were putting them up, and like some of them were so easy to name and some were really hard. Like this guy, we had a really hard time naming him. I don't remember what we named him, but I love him. He is just so pretty. There's another yarn ball. And they come unframed, so you can do whatever you want with them. You can frame them. Her feathers are very popular. So we've sold a lot of feathers so far. Yeah, you can go anywhere in your house, a bedroom, a kitchen. She's so good. I wish I had this kind of talent. This guy is my favorite. I might steal him. We'll see. Ah, hang on, there he is. And last beautiful butterfly. So I'm very lucky. My husband's family is very artistic, and I have so many things around the house that his family has made. His granny made a couple Afghans for us. I've got art on the wall from Heather. I have his brother is and sister-in-law. They're great artists too, and they've made things for my daughter's room and my son's room, and everybody's just so talented. So there might, you know, we might have other things in the shop in the future too from other family members. We'll see. But yeah, that's it. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below or send me a message. If you would like to like and subscribe, that would be great. And I'm gonna try not to do a Midwestern goodbye, and I'm just gonna say thanks for coming, and I'll see you next month sometime. Bye, take care.